Hello, everybody. Welcome to session one, the first lightning talk of reInvent 2025. I'm going to talk about Innovation Sandbox on AWS. So super high level, I'm going to talk about why we want to use sandboxes on AWS, some customer challenges, and what Innovation Sandbox on AWS is. Then I'm going to give you, we're going to attempt a live demo. We had a recorded demo that wasn't working, so we're going to do this live, make it exciting. So first point, why sandboxes? I come from heavily regulated companies where as developers or infrastructure folks, we had service allow lists where our developers weren't able to use specific services because they weren't allowed to be used. And this created a huge bottleneck on upskilling and innovating. I was talking to a customer a few weeks ago. They had a service allow list. They had a whole process to go through. What they found was there was services that would be requested to be approved, go through the process, would get approved, and it would never get used by the developers because they were never able to test it out in the real world. So Innovation Sandbox, the number one goal that we're trying to achieve is being able to upskill and democratize innovation and building on AWS. So traditionally, we've been pushing sandboxes for years. I've been in AWS for about 6 years, and a lot of our customers are implementing sandboxes to achieve that. We typically have some type of admin or administrator that creates an AWS account and provides access. Typically, it's a platform engineering team. Maybe there's an identity team to a user. So the user gains access. They're able to play around in the sandbox, build some things. Very often we have multiple users using the same sandbox. Multiple users create a lot of resources. It becomes extremely difficult to manage. We have cost becoming a huge concern. And for customers that have solved or tried to solve the cost concern, it becomes a management overhead of going through all the resources that are in use or not in use and cleaning up the environments. So I've been on the team, the AWS solution team now for about 4 years. We have solutions like Instance Scheduler, Quota Monitor, Landing Zone Accelerator. About three and a half years ago, we had the idea for Innovation Sandbox. We literally talked to hundreds of customers. I probably talked to over 100 customers to get feedback so we get approval for our developers to build Innovation Sandbox. We hear it from universities, from startups, highly regulated customers. They need some type of solution to help them manage their sandbox environments. Innovation Sandbox went GA May of this year. More excitement around this solution than any other solution that I've seen, probably because of the different, like every single industry, there's an interest in testing, innovating, upskilling. Our solutions or software packages are deployable by CloudFormation templates. There's an implementation guide with each one. This particular package has 4 CloudFormation templates. It takes about an hour to deploy, and it's up and running. Supported and maintained by AWS, and the code is available on GitHub. So what does Innovation Sandbox do? I'm going to walk through the workflow or the flow fairly quickly, and then I'm going to jump into a demo. So when we built the solution, there's 3 different types of users that we imagine using this solution. We have admin personas, manager personas, and user personas. Admins are responsible for deploying the solution and the underlying AWS accounts. Managers do not need to be technical. We want to be able to delegate them, give them the ability to give these sandbox accounts to their end users and to manage cost and the duration of these sandbox accounts. So the way the solution works is somebody in the admin persona, again, platform engineering, whoever creates AWS accounts, is going to pre-create a certain number of accounts. This could be 2 accounts, this could be 100, 1,000 accounts, and that account those accounts will be in an account pool. And then we're going to delegate the ability for the managers to provision these or lease these accounts to sandbox users and provide them access. Using something we call lease templates, the manager is able to create controls around cost and time, which you'll see in the demo. I'll dive a little bit deeper. This is all possible through a user interface. Access to the solution, as well as the AWS accounts, is IAM Identity Center. If you're using a third-party provider, Okta, Entra, it's going to work exactly the same way. So access to the solution, which is a user interface, is through IAM Identity Center, and this is what allows the 3 different users, or the 3 different personas, to be able to use this solution. So the way account request flow works, we have a user at the far end. User is going to authenticate through IAM Identity Center or their third-party provider through IAM Identity Center. They're going to access the application with user permissions. They're going to be able to request an account or request a lease. The lease request has an optional approval that the manager can set. If there is an approval, manager can approve or deny within the UI, within the solution. Let's assume they approve it. Sandbox account is provisioned. The user now has access to that Sandbox account. And you can see the note in the bottom right. We had a release about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, where managers can now assign leases directly to users. This is extremely helpful for hackathons, or we have a public and private lease template, which I'll show you in the demo, which allows us to create really large lease templates with high budgets or thresholds that we don't expose to the user, so they can't request it, but managers can assign those leases to, let's say, researchers or whatever team would need that high threshold. There's multiple actions. I'm going to talk quickly about the actions that you can complete or set in a lease template based on time or duration. So we have send alert. That's fairly self-explanatory. We have freezing the account. I'm going to walk through that in a second. And we have clean up the account or recycle the account. So walking through a full flow, we have our account pool on the left, managers, and we have users. And let's say we're running a small hackathon with these 4 users. We created a lease template that had a 5-day duration. After 5 days, we're going to freeze the accounts. In addition to setting thresholds to complete any of these actions, managers from the user interface can also manually initiate them. So a manager can manually terminate a lease or freeze an account at any time. So let's say 5 days is up. The accounts are now frozen, which means that the users lose access. The users can no longer access it. However, managers and admins maintain access to those accounts. This is really helpful in things like hackathons, or if the scenario that I'll walk through where we're going to say the first 2 people during the hackathon, they built something, they want to continue to work on it. So managers can go in, they can manually change specific lease thresholds. So they can increase that duration from, let's say, 5 days, they can make it 30 days, because the first 2 users want to continue work. Once they unfreeze those, the users have access to those accounts again. Option 2, this is the least common option. We can eject accounts from the solution at any time. We've seen this pattern from customers that have built something. Let's say the Zebra Unicorn gets built. We want to bring it over to our development environment. We're going to move that account to a development OU and no longer treat it as a Sandbox account. We're able to do that. So it's removed from the solution. And then the most common pattern is recycling. We could set a cleanup on the duration of maybe 7 days or 8 days, and just at 8 days, it'll automatically happen. Or again, the manager can manually go in and clean up the account. During the cleanup process, the account is moved into a cleanup OU. All resources are cleaned up using AWS Nuke. That's what the solution uses. And the account is returned to the account pool. All right, now we're going to switch over to the risky demo. We have full access. Okay, so this is the user interface of the solution. I authenticated through IAM Identity Center as the administrator. You can see over here, we have the administration tab. As the admin, I'm able to see all of these sections. As a manager, I'm able to see everything except for the administration tab, and the user is only able to see home. So starting as the administrator, we can look at the accounts. We can see in this account pool, we have 3 available accounts, 4 active accounts, 1 frozen account, for a total of 8 accounts. I'm going to click on the Accounts tab, and we can actually see down here the details of these accounts. So we can see the account IDs, and again, as the admin, I could log into any of these accounts. Because I've authenticated through IAM Identity Center to access the solution, I'm able to just log in directly from the solution into the accounts with admin level access. If I want to add accounts to the account pool, again, maybe we're having a hackathon and we want to add 20 accounts for a short period, it's extremely simple. I'm going to click Add Accounts, and then any accounts that I have pre-created and moved, there's an entry organizational unit. Empty accounts, move them into the entry OU, and they would be available here. I'm actually going to register this account. And this just tells me that everything in those accounts will be wiped. I click Submit, and then hopefully, Internet works, and we can see the account that I just added has now moved into a cleanup status. So the cleanup process takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Again, it's using AWS Nuke. In a what we call an Innovation Sandbox hub account. This is all in your environment. And the process to clean up runs about 5 to 10 minutes. If I want to shrink the size of the account pool, I could select accounts in any state and click Eject Account. If I can click correctly. And these accounts are removed from the solution. So again, if we wanted to shrink the account pool, or maybe something was built on those accounts that we don't want to ever destroy, we could just move them out and treat them as regular accounts. Moving up to the manager section. I'm not going to log in as the manager. You could just imagine manager is not able to see the administration tab. So starting on the lease templates, lease templates are the core of how to configure the thresholds for the accounts. This is typically going to be done by the manager persona, so it does not need to be technical. We're going to set all the configuration. So clicking on the first one, agentic testing, we can see we have name, description, and visibility. I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to set private visibility, which means when a user logs in, they're able to request an account from the available lease templates. If it's private, they won't be able to see that lease template. We have our optional approval. I'm going to go over to budget. We could set a maximum budget. We don't have to set a maximum budget, but here we have it set for $50. It's going to send an alert. $75, the account will be frozen, and at $100, the account will be wiped. We have a lot of customers that don't ever want to wipe their Sandbox accounts just based on how they use Sandboxes today. My recommendation is to always keep the wipe account action, even if you put that dollar amount very high, just as a safeguard against runaway costs. We don't have to do each one of these actions. We can pick and choose. Duration works identically to budget, except we're dealing with time. So we can set for, let's say, 24 hours. We'll make this short. And we can add thresholds and set different actions. And then the last tab, we have cost report. So cost report is a new feature that came out about 2 weeks ago. This allows us to assign metadata to the lease templates based on maybe cost center or a team that's using it. And every 30 days, a cost report will be sent to an S3 bucket that rolls up the costs based on these cost report groups. So again, we see cost centers a lot, or CUs, and you assign this. The idea is you assign this to a lease template, and then if I'm on the security team, I'm only going to choose, as a Sandbox user, the security lease templates, or that's all I'm allowed to choose. So we have a roll-up of the different cost centers and how they're using the solution. If I look at the Leases tab, right now I have 3 active leases. You can see who has these leases. Again, this would be the manager persona looking. We can see what the current budget is, when they're expiring, what's the status. You can see I have one that's in the frozen state. Again, as a manager, I can log into the accounts at any time. If I click on one of these leases, actually I'll click on this one here, I can change specific lease thresholds as well as the lease template. So each lease is created from a lease template. That's where it's born from, and it pulls down the configuration for time and for cost. But I can also go into individual leases and make changes. This allows us, again, with the hackathon example, 5 days was up, I can go into specific leases and extend specific thresholds. As I mentioned, we can now assign leases. So if I click Assign Lease, we can see the 4 lease templates that I have so far. And you could see this researcher lease template is visibility private. That means, again, a user logs in, they're not going to be able to request this access to this lease template or lease from this lease template. We can see the Approvals tab. Right now I have one, AWS Todd, he requests a lot. I can select that, I can approve it. When a approval request comes through, it's going to send an email, but you could also see it in the UI itself. Managers and admins can approve. I'm going to jump over to a different view for the users. So this is what a Sandbox user would see. So again, I logged in, I authenticated through IAM Identity Center as a Sandbox user. I can see if I have any leases currently, and right now I have a total of 4 leases, but only 2 that are active, these first 2. So I can log into these accounts. I can see what my current budget is and expiration. I have 1 that's pending approval, and I have 1 that was manually terminated just from demoing the solution. I can request a lease from here, and again, we're going to see the different lease templates that are public. I could select one, accept the terms. These terms are configurable. So there's a concept of global configuration, which is managed in app config in the hub account. We can change the terms of service. We can change the maximum number of sandboxes one user can have. So right now I have 2. I have it set to 3, I think, so I can get a total of 3. We can change the absolute maximums for lease templates. So we could say no lease template can be created larger than $500. We can require cost report groups. They worked extremely hard to make this as configurable as possible. And one thing I haven't mentioned, everything that I'm doing in the UI is supported, has API support. There's a full open API spec, so you can build this into your existing process. I'm going to finish the request. Now it has completed. Okay. Let me jump back. All right. Here's the QR code for Innovation Sandbox. Since the launch in May, again, I probably talked to maybe 50 to 100 customers either deployed or deploying the solution. Some of the common use cases we see, I mentioned already, we see from universities, that's a very common one. We see highly regulated customers. We also see hackathons. And the big one, I don't think I've mentioned at all yet, is GenAI. We see lots of requests for Innovation Sandbox to test building on in sandboxes, whether it's agentic building or building agentic applications. It's a perfect, isolated, secure place that with the cost and time controls. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And as always, please complete the survey if you can. Really appreciate it.